I'd like to call this meeting of the special call meeting of the Glynn County Board of Commissioners. Our first item up for discussion today is to receive a presentation regarding the design concept for Canal Road and the Glencoe Parkway intersection improvement project. Mr. Andrews.
Commissioners, Paul Andrews, County Engineer. Item before you is a update to the question of the intersection improvements at Harry Driggers Canal Road and Glencoe Parkway. Gotcha. Sorry. This is a follow-on presentation to one that I presented to you in July of last year. This is the intersection area. We had looked at originally a couple of intersection options with original roundabout layout, shifting the intersection, try to make it more of a 90-degree intersection, and well, we had one that was a split of the intersection here. I'm sorry, I passed. Where we were going to split the intersection. Direction was given to move forward with a roundabout, so we had several roundabout options, all with pros and cons to them. This was the roundabout at the last meeting. We requested to look and see whether we could push the roundabout further to the north, even if it did get in an impact. This is the well site that the Joint Water and Sewer currently has. The cost to replace that well site was in the $750,000 range, and the improvements to the location of the roundabout center, it didn't provide that much improvement. And so staff is recommending that we move forward. If we're moving forward with a roundabout, is in this location, providing full access to Notting Hill and access to the commercial sites here and here. We had a meeting in December with the Airport Commission to discuss how this might impact the property that they have adjacent to it and what the Airport Commission might be interested in doing on their large tract. The Airport Commission had prepared a sketch of their property, and the Airport Commission is online here with our team's meeting to answer questions regarding this layout if there's interest in that. The EMC Engineering, our design consultants with this, prepared an exhibit generally taking the airport's exhibit and combining it with the option number 4 roundabout location. This is a concept plan of how that intersection would look moving forward if the Airport Commission and the board were interested in making improvements on the airport property. This is informational to you, and staff is looking for some direction on which way we want to go to move forward towards final engineering for the roundabout and the intersection improvement itself.
Okay. Mr. Andrews, show us on the airport concept the private property that is owned, how that relates.
Okay. There's a large tract of private property here that's generally cleared. On the Airport Commission's layout, it is this parcel.
And is that in scale to what the other drawing is?
Yes, sir. The actual dimensions of that roundabout circle are a little bit different, and the width of the right-of-way is a little different, I believe. But generally, they're in the same location.
And the triangle that adjoins the Air National Guard, would that not be something that we would be able to work something with the airport commission on?
We'd have to get into the ownership of that. When the county acquired that from the federal government, it had some reversionary information, or reversionary clause on it that said that it needed to be used for road work. Now, this would use a portion of it for road work. Whether that frees the whole of the parcel to come to the county as a in whole, or just that part that we do on the road, I haven't pursued that to see how we would answer that question.
And I thought when we met in December with the airport commission that we were talking about looking into doing that. We've not been able to move that ball forward any.
I have not, but I certainly will. We'll try to get an answer to that.
Okay. What about, have we initiated anything on right-of-way acquisition for the private property there?
Other than reaching out when we started this project to get in contact with the owners and let them know we would be acquiring in the area, we have not pursued anything more specific. That would be with the detailed engineering to have those plans together and make those offers once we knew, because each one of the roundabout locations changes how much we need to acquire.
Okay, and would you put up the screen that shows our final?
This was the recommended, zoomed in on the recommended alignment. Center of the roundabout, this is Harry Driggers. This just ties back as quickly to Harry Driggers as it can, is the alignment that you have here.
And the airport concept is a slower, it moves further into that track to set up that site plan that they're looking at.
That's correct. It takes this leg and turns it a little bit.
And with your cursor, sort of draw on that layout how the county proposal is.
I'm sorry.
Generally speaking, just use your cursor to follow the general layout of how the county's proposal, not the airport commission.
Oh, it would come around and, oh, geez, I'm sorry. It would come around off of here and go around that well site and tie back into Harry Driggers.
At about that point where
Yes,
where the widened right-of-way begins?
Right in there, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions or observations that you'd like to bring up at this point?
Where's the traffic light? Intersection. Is that down further?
This is the Moondoggies parcel where that restaurant is. So the intersection's right here today, the traffic signal.
Okay, and where's Canal? Right there?
Right here.
So the roundabout would be right there where the light is, basically.
Yes, sir. And Chairman Neal, I wanted to clarify some information as what steps we've taken since December. We needed to know the suggested route from the airport before we could determine the legal question to that piece at the corner by the Air National Guard and what additional costs and right-of-way would be needed. And we received that last week, and so we're incorporating that. We were able to do this overlay. And then once you and the full board give us consensus this afternoon, if you're able to, then we'll be able to move forward and answer those questions and start moving the project forward.
Okay. And Mr. Byrd, do you have any comments you'd like to add?
Yeah, just the overview. Are you getting feedback? Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, but you're a little bit muted.
I'm getting feedback somehow. No, yeah. you hear me better?
A little better, maybe. I don't know if our,
Yes, can you hear me better now?
I think can everyone
Can you hear me
hear
okay?
at this point? Okay.
This is the airport. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just the overview is, this is the conceptual design of that parcel. Just right now, it's just conceptual, that we wanted to make sure that whatever is done on the intersection retains the viability of that parcel being developed for non-aeronautical commercial purposes. So this is what our initial concept is. That triangular piece that Ms. Thompson talked about, we do not, at the airport, have any ownership in that triangle. I think she probably got some information from the state or the federal government.
Okay. And at one point, I think in our meeting in December, we talked about using that to square up. I can't read the parcel or lot numbers on your proposal, but it would join right there where the cursor is to square that parcel to make
Yeah,
it.
the cursor's not showing on my screen, but the parcel we're talking about is, we don't own the intersection, exact intersection on Glencoe Parkway. That's a private ownership. And I think the county would have to acquire ownership in that piece of parcel. And the thought was that the airport is required to get adequate compensation for any land taken from it. That could be a trade for that other parcel. That's what we talked about.
Yes, sir. You're correct there.
If I may, Commissioner, the lot that the cursor's sitting on is listed on the Airport Commission's concept plan as lot number 11, I believe.
And in that conversation, we also talked about the reconnect of Canal Road at the airport, not on the Canal crossing side of Canal, but just below your cursor there, Mr. Andrews, moving out Harry Driggers, moving
Yes,
out,
sir.
no, so the other way. Where Canal, right there, where that comes in, where it intersects Harry Driggers, we had talked about a realignment of that at some point as part of this project. Is that still under consideration?
That would be part of the option number 4. Instead of connecting back up here, we would take that same alignment, widen the right-of-way, and bring it in a little gentler alignment. It wouldn't include the full realignment of Harry Driggers to accommodate the sketch plan that the Airport Commission had prepared.
But I had thought that the Airport Commission had talked to us about move your cursor down and to your right a little bit, right there, no, right there where Canal comes back in.
Yes.
The old Canal Road there. Wasn't there talk of getting it realigned for something that the Airport Commission needed?
Yes, sir. That was the discussion, was to move this over to this side and have that connection outside of one of their safety zones. And
Yeah.
that can be done as part of the project. It doesn't really impact the alignment of the air
Right.
triggers.
I just wanted to make sure that
Yes,
was
sir.
part of the conversation today.
Absolutely.
Commissioners, any other discussion that you want to have on this? They need a consensus to be able to move this forward.
I mean, quite frankly, yeah, I'm a bit confused why what we're asked to determine here. I mean, you've got two concepts, and I'm not sure I'm hearing why one is better than the other. This looks like more road work for me, so is that more expensive? And is the other concept, is it because you're going around the water and sewer and back around, does that make it more dangerous in regards to the curves in the road going into the roundabout? I'm just kind of missing some information here.
Yes, sir. Pamela Thompson, Director of Community Development. So the initial layout, or what we're calling option 4, was to achieve a roundabout with safe tiebacks in for the least amount of road work as possible. At that point, when we were discussing with the airport and the different commissioners in that area proposed layouts, we were asked to get with the airport commission and see if they had a preferred or different layout that would be more advantageous to them. So the layout in front of you will include additional cost, and we weren't able to get those until we had this layout, but it would create more road frontage on airport property, which would make their leased parcels more marketable for their use in economic development in that area. So this option opens up more area of the airport, allows for more commercial uses of their property. It does long-term make Harry Driggers less of a angled turn-in than it is now, but it would be planning for the future of those airport properties.
And that design does not interfere with their safety zone as currently, as the airport is currently constructed, and if there was ever a desire to lengthen that runway, or have they signed off and said, hey, this isn't going to be an issue either if we do lengthen the runway?
So I may get the lingo wrong, but this improves the safety of those zones in that area by moving the road further away from where their active airport activities are now.
And Mr. Andrews, do we have any rendering today of the curve on Harry Driggers as it would work back in? Are we creating a more dangerous S-curve concept as it gets into that curve that is not shown here?
Commissioners, this alignment, the design of the curves would be fine-tuned to make sure they were safe and met the design requirements.
Right.
If this is the section that you were asking about.
No,
this.
I'm talking about the curve that's already on Harry Driggers that's just out beyond what these renderings are showing. Yes, out in that area. It wouldn't create a conflict or a compound curve that would make it more dangerous.
Let our design professional come in and.
Mark Mobley, EMC Engineering. The curve, so this is the curve right past the well, and this is what goes out this way, and it's a straightaway out through this way. The other alignment, the last alignment that you saw, which was our original proposed, went right behind right behind the well here, and then it loops back around, so you end up getting that reverse curve that you're talking about. So from a safety standpoint, you are getting rid of, you're just putting a reverse curve up here, but this is the straightaway out through here. And these are designed for 45 miles an hour right now on this layout.
Commissioners, any other question? Is the question before us today whether we take the airport concept or option 4 or moving forward with option 4?
That's the option for. No, that's fine.
Keep on going back. Commissioners, I'm sorry. The request from staff to you today is to fix the location of that roundabout. This is the option that we are bringing forward as the best location for that roundabout. I believe if the Airport Commission, we can adjust the leg of that roundabout going north to accommodate the concept plan that the Airport Commission has. So in the future, if they choose to move forward with that, it'll be in a position where they can take that road and extend it. Or if y'all choose to include it in this project, we could continue that forward. But this request for you today is to fix the location of that roundabout from the 5 options that have been prepared.
Right. So, Commissioners, today we're looking at this screen, option 4.
Mr. Chairman, can they go to option 3 just a minute? Now, that one From what I see on the computer screen I've got here, you go through that little triangle there on the corner, correct?
That's correct.
And you're coming around the well, but are you going behind the
Yes.
Moondoggies?
Yes. And that's into this property here, and there's tremendous amount of wetlands back in here.
And for
So-
that reason, it was rendered improbable that we could make that, first of all, that we could get a wetland permit to go through that, as I understand it.
You have to show that you have no choice when, and, you know, you have to do alternatives. And the cost, I mean, this is hospice, I believe.
Yeah.
So it works good up here,
Yeah,
great, but back in this area.
yeah, it had the least effect on the north side of Glencoe, but
So it wouldn't work coming down Canal Road to move it where they're, on option 4. Isn't that what option 4 is doing basically, except that you're going around the well?
We're just looping it back in here,
But
right straight into Canal Road.
But you're having to go around the well that way.
Right,
okay.
we're going around the backside, yes, with this one.
and we've been looking at this for
see
about
it
a
there.
year, and I think that's when option 5 came in, was toward the end of last year. But this one seems to be, to me, the one that's most feasible, and, but that's the reason we're discussing it today.
That's your district, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you like option 4?
I like option 4 the best of the options we have. Option 3 was my favorite, but it wasn't feasible.
Behind hospice and I mean, behind those buildings and then around hospice.
You're right. And it wouldn't have been a favorable disposition for that little shopping center there for frontage. I mean, probably an unfair disadvantage to them.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm agreeable to option 4. I don't know what the others think, but I think option 4, you've studied it more than any of us, so I yield to your background on it.
Not going to take a vote, but do we have a consensus that we could instruct?
I'm good with 4.
All right. All right. Anybody else have any comment on this concept? And Mr. Andrews, you'll be bringing us some preliminary cost using option 4, and then in conjunction with what the airport proposal might be, with cost differences for us to consider in the very near future.
We will, yes,
All
sir.
right.
We'll get those prepared and concept costs for each one of those. And with this, get an answer on what the remainder of that parcel could be used for.
Yes, sir. And while you're here, let me throw you under the bus and ask you how we're coming along with right-of-way acquisition coming down Canal Road to this roundabout from Canal crossings.
Slow progress. We've gotten, I believe the last update was we've got all the official offer letters out and are negotiating with several of the property owners.
Any timeline on that we could bring forward?
No, sir, but we are pushing as hard as we can to get the questions answered and the negotiations finalized. So
Yeah.
we can bring it to the board and get authorization to purchase.
Any help that any of the commissioners might be able to give you?
We're not at that point yet, but if things stall out, we will certainly reach out.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Looks like you're staying close by. Item number 2 is to receive an update regarding the Dungeness Drive extension. It's a SPLOST 2016 project update and rescoping alternative. Mr. Andrews.
I said this is another of the SPLOST 2016 projects. This was, what I included in the presentation was the information that went out to the commissioners in your packet, the item describing where we were and what the alternative that we're bringing forward is now. This is the original white page for SPOS 2016 and concept sketch of the plan. Well, if you'll give me a minute, I'll kind of go through the history of it. I realize that the board hasn't seen most of this. This is the exit 29, Southport Parkway comes in here, and Dungeness is right here, the Oasis and the Flying J are here and here. This is the traffic the signalized intersection on Highway 17. The original concept with the SPOS 2016 project was to extend Dungeness along a ditch line, currently runs right along there, and tie it back into Southport Parkway. We have been in contact with property owners in this area over several concepts that we put together and not been able to work out a solution where we could acquire the needed right-of-way. The next concept we looked at was to extend Dungeness straight away. The building that's at the end of it was, I believe, the truck wash and truck lube area. It's back in business, but to relocate that building or remove that building and tie it directly into Southport, when we looked at this option, the property owners didn't want the building demolished. They wanted a new building. The cost of the building we felt like was in excess for the project itself. The next concept was to come in between gas station and Wagoneer's training facility and bring a connection over to Candler. The property owners here didn't feel like it was a benefit to their property to have that road through there with the driveway and the accesses that they currently have. And so the final concept, the request was to look at coming right down the ditch line, closer to the original concept that we had, but piping that whole ditch. That pushed the price up in excess of $1 million due to the size of the ditch and the amount of stormwater coming through there, to pipe that whole ditch and pave the road. Pushed it past where we felt like the project intended for the budget. So I spoke to kind of stepping back and looking at what we were trying to accomplish with this. Currently, Southport, if you're coming down Southport, you come down Palisades and come up to this intersection at Dungeness and Palisades, which is fairly close to the signalized intersection, which makes this a difficult intersection to navigate when things are crowded. You have to wait for gaps in traffic, and gaps have to be made for you to pull out. So I asked for and met out in the field with one of the Georgia DOT right-of-way access guys to see whether there was anything that he felt like we could do at this intersection to make improvements. And as we were sitting there looking at it, the idea came that maybe what we need to do is divert traffic coming down Southport Parkway. If we could divert traffic away from that intersection and get it out directly onto Highway 17 away from that intersection, that might accomplish the same goal as the project, free up the congestion at this Palisades and Dungeness intersection, and provide a more direct access from Southport Parkway to Highway 17. That's where we're in contact with Georgia DOT. Georgia DOT concept, they didn't have trouble with it. Their last communication with me was that they would need some more information, and we'd be looking at the details of where this intersection was versus the lanes of traffic for somebody if somebody wanted to come out here and cross over into that left turn lane, if we could adjust that to be able to accommodate that turning action, and what kind of traffic loading there was at this intersection. They'd be looking at that to verify that it was warranted to put in an additional driveway access.
And that would be a right-in, right-out only on where Southport Parkway.
Yes, sir, because the grass median runs along this area, so that would be only a right-in, right-out. One of the, as we're kind of talking through this as a concept, is we would do it in conjunction with some intersection improvements here and some, include some wayfinding signage in Southport, the commercial subdivision, to direct people. If you're wanting to go Highway 17 north, this is the way. Highway 17 south, probably easier to go out Martin Palmer and have that direct access. Or continue the other way on Southport Parkway, since both of those give you direct access to Highway 17 south. But I haven't gotten deep into the conversations with Georgia DOT. The next step would be to set up with their area traffic engineer and their, can't remember who else was on the list, but several of Georgia DOT people to present this to them as a concept and get their official comments. But I didn't want to go that step until I had understanding with the board of county that this was something we were willing to do, if we get approval.
That looks like that would be a less expensive option as well, would it not?
I would expect so. It's going to be expensive construction because it's Georgia DOT right-of-way, and so we'll be constructing under their requirements, but we won't have to, it would all be, the acquisition would go away. We would just receive a permit for this intersection work.
Should be less than piping and
Yes.
filling from that last option prior to this, right?
How much less do you think? I mean, what was the amount of money set aside for this project from the SPLOST? And how much do you think the piping would be? I mean, it seems like to me this DOT project, you've got a lot of ifs still involved in it. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir, it is. This is at concept with the county now. The next step, if y'all approve the concept and said let's pursue this, is my next step would be to set up a meeting with Georgia DOT, get their comments in specifics, and see if they were possible to be addressed. And if they are, then we could be in a point to say how much is this going to cost the county to do.
But the option to pipe the ditch and pave, I mean, do you have any idea, ballpark, what you're talking about pricing? You said well over $1 million, I think.
I believe the cost, when we ran out the budgetary cost estimate, was a little bit over 1.2 million.
And do you know how much we had set aside for this project?
I want to say that originally it was in the 400,000. Thank you.
This is in my district, and I've talked to several of the, some property owners out there and business owners out there in that particular area. They seem to like this concept here, and if this is the less inexpensive way to go, I think that that's something we need to explore.
Thank you for talking with them.
So if we go forward with this, I mean, what's the kind of the time frame on working with DOT? I mean, from what I've seen in my 2 years up here, it doesn't move very quickly. I mean, you think you'd have an answer in 6 months, or?
I think we'd have an answer to the concept in 6 weeks, and then we could decide on if we wanted to pursue that with Georgia DOT. But I think they've been, recently they've been fairly responsive to emails. There was a time when they weren't, but they've been responsive now to emails. And the gentleman I've been emailing with feels like he can get a meeting up and we can get the details of their comments.
Commissioners, any other comments?
So the original budget for this was 400,000,
Yes, sir.
but all the options were around $1 million.
The one for piping the ditch that was closest to the original concept, but the owners asked that we go ahead and, instead of acquiring property from them, is pipe that ditch and pushed it to the 1.2 area. The other concepts either were turned down, or the replacement of that building was a questionable cost as to how much the county wanted to get into building a new building for the property owner or paying them for a new building. We offered that we would reimburse them for the value of the building as it sat, and they countered that they felt like they were due compensation for a new building.
Mr. Chairman, I'm agreeable to give them 6 weeks and set it back up to have an answer to the commission by April 1st, I guess. And I'm agreeable to that. I think that would allow Commissioner Tossin's desire to see if this can be worked out, but at the same time, it gives us a time frame, and we should have something back from the county engineer as to where we stand with DOT.
Gentlemen, we have consensus on that?
Yeah, Commissioner Tosterson is okay with that. I support it.
All right.
Thank you. I'll get right on setting up the
That
meeting.
gives you what you need.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is to receive an update on SPLOST 2016 projects. Mr. Dave Austin, Ms. Pamela Thompson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Dave Austin, Public Works. We're briefing off this familiar colorful chart that you see. I'll start. First one's LMIG. Since the last meeting, we've completed the 2020 LMIG, and we have awarded the 2021 LMIG with a notice to proceed looking like April 2021.
The next project on your list is the Canal Road improvements. We are working to we have all the wetland authorization forms except from one property owner, so we're working on that. We are working on final comments on the plan and waiting on the comments, and then we'll prepare the RFP. I'm sorry, my eyeballs are firmly in middle age, and all these SPLOST spreadsheets are firmly in 2 font. The next one is Dungeness. You just heard that, so within 6 weeks, we'll have a meeting with DOT set up and results and information to y'all on that concept.
Our next one is Pinnock Road. Pinnock Road, we have ready to go out to bid. Should be up at purchasing in the next couple of days and ready for bidding.
Which way did we decide to go along that day?
We've got a menu for you.
Okay.
So we've
So
got
we
the-
haven't decided yet.
Well, we're going to decide when the numbers come in. So
Okay.
hopefully give you a few options and then some numbers so that you can make an informed decision.
Okay, thank you.
Next one is Sea Island ditch piping improvement. That project would have been done, but somebody ran over our wet curb, and so we have a couple of tire tracks in our wet curb, and they have to fix those. So that's close to being finished. The Sea Island Road at Demery, that one is out for bid, and the bid opens. So you, at the last meeting, you rejected the bid. Bid was over, so we put it out the next day for bid, and the bid opening is 11 March. The Kingsway Federico Roundabout, we've had some weather challenges in the last few days. They did do a little work last night in the rain, and they hauled in some fill today, and they're working on that. We have a schedule for completion about mid-May, weather permitting. The Spur 25 in Altama, that is in, we have the permit. Permit's been received. Got that on the 19th of January. And now we're necking down on we originally had 19 properties. Now we're down to 17 properties that we're either getting easements or right-of-way on. And we are necking those down between 2 attorneys' offices, 1 title office, and 1 procurement office. And the titles have been received, so that's good news. So we're working that with I'd like to say that's an easy thing, but that is confusing. So daily we go through this litany of where we are on these procurement actions for these little pieces of property. And hopefully we will nail that, run all those little rabbits down a hole here shortly, and then put that out for bid.
And is that 17 of 19 complete? Is that 17 still complete? I didn't quite
Well, no,
understand.
it's, they're all in some kind of various stages of completion, okay? I have one that says complete. The other one says it's at this lawyer's office, the other one says it's that lawyer's office, rewording this phrase. So I'm trying to wrap my brain around it and neck it down. And I think we're getting to where we're talking, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week to try and get this going. I went out to Captain D's today to talk to the people there because nobody was contacting them. And I said, I can't believe these people don't want some money for a little bit of grass that we're taking in their front yard. So we now have a contact with Captain D's, and we're checking that one down. They were the long pole in the tent, if you will. But there is no the complete thing is kind of a little confusing, exactly when it's complete. So I am managing this. For the county, I am managing this. I used to be Ben Pierce, who used to be managing this, but he's working for somebody else right now. So I am the project manager for the county. Okay, but we have a Mike Woodall from TMC that works these issues, and that I talk with him, and he works with the 2 attorneys' offices. Now it's a little challenging to find out whose court the tennis ball actually is, or if you guys would like to reference whose court okay, I won't say it. You knew I was going to say. So we're trying to neck that down, because sometimes when it gets kicked over to my side of the net, then it's over in my attorney's office, and then we deal with Will and Claire, and they're very responsive, and they're working these issues as we are, and we sit down and, well, we don't sit down, but we talk with them and go over these things. And they go over the language, they kick back the language. We've got 3 that are kicked back for language that are getting reviewed. So it's challenging. Any other questions on that?
So the next one are the sidewalks. One portion of the sidewalk, we have heard that the DOT funding will be available within the next couple of months, and that one is waiting to issue the RFP, just waiting on the funding from DOT to be available. The other portion of sidewalk has been bid out and is working its way through Finance Committee to you all for approval. Yes, sir, I'm sorry, Harry Jigger sidewalk.
Federico Road sidewalk, last meeting you rejected that bid. We put it back out on the street with a smaller scope, and our bid is due 9 March.
And you took out the west side of Frederica by the old Outback and...
Actually, we left those in
Oh,
as
did you?
options. Okay, we left those in, but we took out everything south of Sea Island Road, and we took out expanding it. So we're correcting the faults. Most of the problems are in the Sea Palms area. So we hope to have something that you guys will be able to award.
Great.
The next project is the College Park drainage. We did have to temporarily stop work on that to make it eligible for the CDBG MIT grant funding, which was grant funds targeted to 31520 zip code from Hurricane Irma. That was submitted last week. That grant was submitted, and that grant is to complete the rest of those phases. We should hear back in, I think it's May or June, with whether or not we received that grant.
So where does the project stand? I mean, we're just waiting on the grant to do something?
Yes, sir. They've done the designs and have the permitting in hand. The next step is just, and we were at that point with the funds that were in the SPLOST. We knew that we were going to have to put that on an additional SPLOST for additional funds for that project. So you can't have other funds allocated when you apply for this grant. So if for any reason those grant funds are not allocated, then it would need to have a additional source of funding identified for it. We've been talking with DCA about these funds since shortly after Irma, and we do feel relatively good that at least a portion, if not all of this project, will receive grant funding.
Okay, so in the meantime, what happens?
The next few months, wait and see.
Okay, but no, I'm talking about if we get a storm like we did last night, from the county side, are we working the ditches, or what are we doing to help mitigate flooding?
The college and the College Park Basin, is that what you're referring to, sir?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, because some of this flooding is coming, I guess why this is joint, the development on the county side. And I was just trying to see what can we do, because between now and June is a long time, and we're going to have a lot of rain spells.
As far as I know, we've done everything we can do. So our big tie-up in here is the cross drains under Altama. So they're restricting some of our water that's flowing from the county.
Okay, so.
And we don't want to upgrade those because that's just put more water to everybody to the south. So that's part of this project. But all the ditches to the north of that, they're clean to what they can be cleaned, and they're ready to go.
And has there been an inspection along those ditches? I think that's what Commissioner Booker's asking. Are we sure we're
Absolutely.
clear of all debris and we're in
Absolutely.
the best possible shape for the shape we're in?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Chapel Crossing, we're still waiting to hear back from FLETC, making sure they approve that so we can move forward with them. We are emailing and calling them weekly and moving that up. They did have some position changes for us who could give the okay on that. Golden Isles Parkway, we did receive direction on that. And the project summary has been prepared, and we are working on the RFP now. And I apologize, next meeting, I'm going to put this in a font I can read it, so I'm not so slow in
And one
listening to
maybe
you.
we could read as well.
This is hard on your eyes, Chairman. I can't believe it. Hornet Drive outfall, we still have one property owner that County Engineer Paul Andrews is negotiating with. We have one easement left to receive. Once we get that, we will have those documents ready to go out to bid. And that is the Hornet and South Palm. Those have been combined into one project. And that leaves you at the last project of the animal shelter.
Animal control facilities under construction. The walls, the block walls are up in the two kennel areas. The roof will be going on, not the roof, but the trusses will be going on there shortly. Color selections have been made for exterior, and the interior color selections and items are being worked with Tiffany and the designer and Catherine. We're looking at a late June finish completion, and I think Catherine is working on a visit from somebody in August, maybe the governor and his wife. Is that a secret?
Well, we're
Not
not
anymore.
providing overnight accommodations there for them. Right?
We'll have a bunk, yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. That concludes our presentation. Any questions?
I'm sorry, you said something about the governor.
Correct, yes, sir.
What was that?
I think we're working on having him come down for the opening of the animal shelter, because his wife is a big proponent of animal control. Here comes Kevin. Animal adoption.
Dave, one quick question. The LMIG, can you send us a list of the roads that will be included
Absolutely.
on that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Will he be bringing some money with him?
Well, and yeah, the invitation's actually for Mrs. Kemp. She is the animal advocate. Hopefully the governor would tag along, so. But she's visited our current shelter, and we would hope to have him back out, so.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? All right. Then item number 4, discussion possible alcohol delivery ordinance. Mr. Mumford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will begin by saying in 2020, state law changed, which allows licensed retailers to deliver alcohol. That includes grocery stores, restaurants, convenience stores, and package stores. The only catch to that is if it's allowed by the local jurisdiction. Right now, our jurisdiction, Glynn County, does not allow home deliveries of alcohol, but we are getting questions, have received questions about whether or not the board, Glynn County, would allow that to happen. So in that process, I know some of those individuals, restaurant owners, Dave Snyder's here as well, and I think someone else maybe is, too. If the county is interested in changing this ordinance to allow, those types of businesses to deliver alcohol. Again, in order to happen, it does require an ordinance change. That's kind of the quick summary of that. If there's any questions, I'll have to answer those going forward. I know I've received questions from some of y'all as to what does this mean, what are your options, but if there's any specific questions, I'll answer those.
Go ahead and explain that.
If
you don't mind there.
I'm sorry?
If you don't mind.
Some of the questions that I've gotten. So some of the questions are, can you allow some but not all types of businesses to do this? And my answer is yes, I think you can. I think state law allows you to craft this the way you think is appropriate. Another question I've received is, can you sunset this? Similar to what you did that was different when COVID initially hit. Can you, when the board allowed under kind of a temporary basis to have restaurants allow retail sales to be taken home off premise? And I think you can. You can sunset this. You could sunset it at the end of 2021, 2022, whatever you saw appropriate or fit. And there's some other nuances that I think you could probably draft in there depending on what you think is appropriate.
My question would be, so it's not mixed drinks, it's bottled goods?
It is by the package, so it is not a mixed drink. It is not, it would have to be still in the package, unopened, and there's some very strict, specific rules the state has set forward. There's a training program. There's a process where each retailer has to basically have the person ordering it in their system. So there's a registration process. So those rules are set. It cannot be opened between point A and point B.
So my question is, they can't deliver margaritas in a box unless they buy it from the distributor that way?
That's correct. You could order a distilled spirit and then probably a mixer for delivery, but it could not be pre-mixed.
So basically the restaurants and lounges would be doing what a package store does, but they would be able to deliver.
So for restaurants, it's beer and wine only, and no mixed drinks, no distilled spirits. The only category that's allowed to do distilled spirits are those that are already allowed to package stores. Those are the only category that could do a distilled spirit.
I just wondered if it were going to open up the catering thing one more time.
Mr. Chairman, I've asked Dave Snyder from Halyards, who's worked closely with the legislator on this, as our businesses are gasping for air and struggling to find a way to expand requests that they're getting. Dave's really been a part of this from ground up, and I've asked him to just come speak to the commission and maybe offer some clarity on how it would help our restaurant businesses. And then we have some others that have come to speak to us. So Dave, maybe you come up first.
I'll answer any questions you got as well as I can. For us, it's a new revenue stream to help us while we're at limited capacity. following the executive orders that are in place now from the governor, as well as the Georgia Department of Health, we're mandated to have tables and chairs 6 feet apart from different parties. That puts us down to about 50 to 60% of occupancy. So in following that, we're at a loss because we only have so many chairs. So this is a new revenue stream for us to try and make up some of that revenue that we're missing by having limited seats in our restaurants. That's why we're trying to do it.
I'm sorry, who are you again?
I'm Dave Snyder with the Halyard Restaurant Group.
Okay.
This might be a question for the attorney. So someone calls Halyard's, orders a meal, wants a bottle of wine, and says, I'm going to have Uber pick it up. As always, the devil's in the details. And how does that work, Squire?
So the person picking, or either the restaurant can arrange for the delivery themselves with an employee or the owner, or they can contract with a third party to do the delivery.
The restaurant can
The
contract.
restaurant could contract with a third party to do it, but just by itself, Uber would not be allowed just to show up on the door, at the front door, say, I'm here to pick up a bottle of wine or this beer. They would have to have a prearranged relationship with the restaurant, the grocery store, convenience store, et cetera.
Okay.
It couldn't be that random. And again, there's some preset rules, training for that, whoever's doing the delivery.
Yeah. I understand that. And can we segregate, and the law, I think, reads restaurants and package stores as, can those be segregated?
They can. There's separate sections
So
under the law.
if we approve the restaurants, we're not necessarily having to approve a package store.
You're not. There are other categories along with restaurants that you could pick and choose from, but those are your grocery stores. If you want to allow a grocery store to deliver.
Or a minute market.
I'm sorry?
A minute market?
You could. I mean, again, you can distinguish between different categories of licensees, but those are the other categories: minute market, convenience store, grocery store, restaurants, and then your other category, which is distilled spirits.
Well, I had a little heartburn if it was going to have to include package stores, but I think we need to do everything we can to help our folks in the restaurant business, particularly ones like Halyard's that are crossing the T's and dotting the I's. You got to have a armed guard to get in that place. And I applaud you for what you've done with your distancing and all the stuff. You've played by the rules, Dave.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, too, I want to understand that in this phase, our goal would be to limit it to restaurants, specific. Not open a Pandora's box of alcohol going wherever it wants, when it wants, and how it wants. But it would be a specific help. They're one of the few businesses that are operating under a mandated restriction of occupancy, which reduces their business. Unlike minute markets or grocery stores, they're not impacted under the COVID restrictions like our restaurants are right now. So, correct, David?
Yes.
One question about the package stores, because, I mean, they do have employees too, and I'm not for opening this up, as Commissioner Fendick said, but the restaurants could not sell the distilled spirits.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, but they could send a 6-pack of beer.
They could.
Or 3 or 4 bottles of wine.
They could.
I kind of got confused in reading state law. And package stores can deliver, from what I understood. But they have to, from what I read, they have to put all their pricing online. They can't charge to deliver. That's why I had my questions.
So they can already deliver?
Yeah, they can deliver, but you have to register with the state. You have to do the class thing.
It's very lengthy. The drivers have to take a specific course, whether they're a restaurant employee or a third-party vendor that can also do delivering for restaurants. So the drivers have to go the specific course. IDs must be taken when you deliver it, the driver must take an ID and write down the name and address of where that delivery went. So there's a lot of backtracking. There's a lot of, dotting i's and crossing the t's to make sure it's all above board.
Okay.
And state law allows it to happen if the local city or county jurisdiction allows it to happen. So it gives the ultimate decision to, in this case, the Board of Commissioners. So if you wanted to allow package stores to do it, you can. If you want to allow restaurants, convenience stores, there's really two categories because one involves distilled spirits. They're a separate category or by themselves under that new law. And then all the other what licensed retailers are in another category. That's beer and wine only.
Or Aaron, if I may offer a suggestion, maybe the county can say it's only for alcohol licenses that are on premise only. That might be a good delineation.
So would there be a charge for the delivery, or are they restricted?
I think that's up to the licensed retailer. I don't think we would get involved in
There
that.
can be a delivery charge. There cannot be a gratuity on the beer or wine delivery. So there's no incentive that you can give a driver to just go ahead and bring it right to you because there's no tipping allowed on the sale of beer and wine for delivery. You can't tip on it. Not allowed. No compensation allowed.
And if we can,
All my sales reports.
And if they deliver something, folk can tip the driver.
Touche.
and sir, do you want to come up and add something at this time and state your name?
My name is Robert Kicklighter. I'm the Law Academy Director for all the Savannah schools in Savannah, Georgia. I'm a criminal justice professor with Southern New Hampshire University. My wife and I currently own 2 businesses in Glynn County, Georgia Driver's Education and Rush Delivery. When the pandemic started, all my classes were forced online. So my wife and I, we started doing some deliveries. We did the DoorDash, the Uber, and another company, and we saw a lot of things we didn't agree with taking place. So some of the restaurant owners asked us to start our own company. So finally we did. We started Rush Delivery. It's an LLC licensed in Glynn County. Some of the things that are taking place is the one thing I would like for you to consider is I heard you discussing package stores and restaurants. But I would like you to consider the fact that you need control. You need to be able to regulate all of it. The alcohol deliveries are taking place whether you approve it or you don't. It's happening. Right now, almost every day to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, you're going to have individuals from DoorDash, a company called Yummy Yum, private different companies taking vehicle loads of alcohol out there. And we were asked numerous times to deliver alcohol, and I refused because I knew the law. I teach the law. I knew it was against the law.
Out to Flexi?
Yes, all the time. So I complained because it was a violation of law, and I couldn't overlook it. And basically what I've been told is Flexi doesn't care. It's gone back and forth. They're allowing it. So you're having all kinds of individuals bringing the alcohol to Flexi. And I've discussed it with the former police chief, Jay Wiggins, and different officers. And my background, I was a captain over criminal investigations when I was in law enforcement. And they say they don't have the manpower to regulate it. So even if you don't approve it, if you just approve for restaurants, one thing you're going to do is you're going to lose control because it's still going to take place. But there are plenty of resources for you. In fact, you have a lot of questions right now. And I made a friend up with the Georgia Department of Revenue. He's the chief operations manager and the assistant director of alcohol and tobacco. His name is Chris Luncheon. And he sent me a link that has all the answers to frequently asked questions. For example, you were asking about mixed drinks. Mixed drinks and cocktails are not permitted to be delivered unless mixed drink or cocktail is in the original can, bottle, or other container sealed by the manufacturer. Grocery stores, gas stores, convenience stores can only deliver beer and wine. Retail package stores, that's beer, wine, distilled spirits. Restaurants, brew pubs, bars, and other consumption on-premises retail alcohol licenses is beer and wine. Can beer, wine, distilled spirits be sold for delivery during the day or night. Alcoholic beverages can only be sold for delivery on the day and time when the sale of the package, beer, wine, or distilled spirits is permitted by local jurisdictional law, your control again. Additionally, all deliveries must be completed on the same day of the sale and the same day the alcoholic beverages leave the licensed premises of the retailer. Am I eligible to deliver alcoholic beverages? To deliver alcoholic beverages for a retail licensee, you must be either an employee of the alcohol retail licensee or a third-party service like myself that has a contractual relationship with the alcohol retail licensee. Currently, what we do is we have friendships with our company. Our company was established to be an asset to the restaurants because during the pandemic, we witnessed Halyards, Termici's, La Plancha, and many other restaurants struggling to survive, employees losing their jobs, and they're trying their best to stay open. So our company doesn't charge these restaurants to deliver for them. We try to be an asset, but other companies do, especially the corporate companies. So what we have to do, according to Mr. Luncheon, is we have to establish a contract. He just told me before I walked into this building, new guidelines are about to be released, so there's more control. Even though the state wants you to be able to have the control, they're going to give you the framework. And so there has to be a written contract addressing the delivery of the alcohol. Now, we have a website, for example, where we have the menus for the restaurants where they can go on and they can order these things. And as long as we have that contract, we're good. You were talking about tipping. You can tip. Gratuities are allowed, but they have to be allowed prior to the delivery, at the point of the sale, not when the delivery driver is coming to deliver the alcohol. Because what you're going to have is just what I've been complaining about the entire time. You got every person out there trying to make money off delivering alcohol to, for example, Fletsy. Delivery drivers, are there any additional requirements? The delivery driver has to be 21 years of age or older, valid Georgia driver's license. There has to be a criminal background investigation completed within the last 12 months, local, national, and motor vehicle driving record with no more than 3 moving violations, no major traffic violations, no convictions within the past 7 years for driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, no convictions of fraud, no sex offenders, no use of motor vehicle to commit a felony. So a lot of regulation on the actual driver that's delivering this. They must complete a mandatory training. Right now there are 7 companies, most of them around Atlanta, that conduct this training. Right now it's only an hour training. So each driver, even Mr. Snyder's employees, if they deliver, have to complete this 1 hour of training to be able to deliver. The training must be approved by the Georgia Department of Revenue. You have to keep a copy of the training certification and retail licensee employment contract for third-party services. The driver also has to have that certification in the vehicle when they go deliver the alcohol. And the training is valid for 2 years. Delivery drivers are required to follow laws. The driver shall only be able to deliver beer, wine, and distilled spirits in an original unbroken container that was sealed by the manufacturer. Alcoholic beverages must be delivered on the same calendar day. They shall be transported in a vehicle for delivery within the local licensing. So you can't, like we deliver over to McIntosh. We would have to have a license there to be able to deliver across the line. Plus, you can obviously deliver out of state. And the beverages must remain in possession of the original driver. He can't transfer it to someone else to go make the delivery. So basically, not to overburden you, but there are a lot of questions I can answer for you. I have all the frequently asked questions if you have them. But what you're doing by this, if I were you in your position, you not only have to take a look at your restaurants, you have to take a look at your other business owners and their employees. You have to look out for everyone. But most importantly, you need to be able to control and regulate this industry that's occurring right now, even though it is against the law. I think you need to give yourself more control. I know there are concerns, but when you regulate this, you can address more issues. I would suggest personally, if you do amend the ordinance, is to give your code enforcement more power to make sure that if a company like me comes in, if the state will allow it, that we pay you a certain amount of fee to be able to deliver, so that they're also code enforcement's taking a look at what we're doing. Now, we have to keep the records. We have to make sure that, again, the licensed person's 21 and they're able to. One other thing is you cannot take these packages. Right now, a lot of people want no contact delivery. You can't take the alcohol and leave it at the door and just drive off. You have to make sure it's delivered to the right person, put in their hands. So you do have a lot of power right now. You can benefit the community. You can create more jobs, a better revenue stream, and raise local, opportunities for everyone by amending your ordinance and improving this. But if you start sanctioning this one and you sanction that one, I know what your intent is, to keep it so you don't open that Pandora's box. But even if you only approve restaurants, you're still going to have these people out there doing these other things, and you're not going to be able to maintain control. So I urge you that if you do it, that you follow the state guidelines, you cover everything, you make sure that these people are doing this and addressing it the right way and following the rules. And by doing so, you're going to benefit your businesses and the employees.
Well, I had what you read. I had read through all that. And the only, I don't have an issue with doing it, but it's just like you said, they're doing it now, and I don't know how in the world we would enforce that, because our code enforcement now, I think, is overloaded as it is. And we have police issues because we're down a number of officers.
Absolutely.
But I am not against this, Cap. I just want...
You can't enforce, back, like I said, when I was doing criminal investigations and training.
It goes back to the old bootleggers.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the laws on the books that, there's no way you can enforce every law. Every one of you, when you get in your car and you drive down the street, you're going to violate Georgia law. There's so many laws on the books there now. But if you get a situation where you have someone seriously abusing this issue, or Lord forbid, if you have someone that delivers to the wrong person, an accident occurs, news media gets involved, then they come around down and they go through all your records and look at what you've done and what you've approved. But if you've got regulations in place and you say, look, we don't condone that, we have these processes in place. If you're going to deliver alcohol in Glynn County, you're going to apply for a license. You're going to follow these. Obviously, you can adopt these guidelines in your ordinance. You're going to follow these rules. For example, with Georgia driver's education, to do driver's education, we have to, every year, we have to submit our files to be viewed, right? We could come up, and I would help you if you ask for my help. We could come up with a process to where these companies can, deliver or email an e-file showing all their documentations to code enforcement so they can review them, and look for certain,
Okay. We're going to need to bring this back to the commission for discussion.
Right.
Well, I was going to make a comment. One, a little disconcerting to hear that there's alcohol deliveries out to FLETC, and maybe we need to work with our law enforcement to set up some stops out there. I can't believe FLETC is taking that kind of attitude if that's the case. We're having trouble currently enforcing the laws on the books, like you said, because you said that there's Uber and all these other folks that are currently doing it. I'm have concern that if we do expand it to restaurants, who I do want to help, it just begins to open up even more folks saying, well, it's kind of legal, but maybe I don't have all the proper paperwork. I'm not going to get caught. So I do have concerns about that. And my question to Dave is revenue stream. When you're talking about a revenue stream, do you have any idea what kind of that might improve your bottom line? And do you see in 6 or 8 months, if things work out well, we're not in the middle of this pandemic again, and people aren't necessarily having delivery to their house quite as much as they are now? Do you see it kind of going away?
Perhaps the sunset would be when we're no longer under an executive order that makes us social distance, that we could end it. It'd be a nice compromise. Just with Mr. Taylor's article in the newspaper yesterday, I had someone call and ask if they could get a case of wine delivered. There's a demand for it. What that would be, I have a hard time knowing. This person was really excited because they didn't have to drive down to Florida and go to Total Wine to get their wine, that we could bring it to them. So I know there's a demand for it. What that number is, Yeah, I don't know, David. I really don't know. I'm hoping it's a few $100s a week to $1,000 a week that I can expand a service and expand our hospitality. And it's also a way to keep a guest. If I can offer that service, maybe they only spend $20 on a bottle of wine, they're going to call me instead of my competition because we offer that hospitality. So it's not just an added revenue stream. It's gaining and keeping loyalty with my guests because we offer a service that someone else doesn't.
Well, you were just saying someone asked for a case of wine. I mean, that would be a little disconcerting to me. I'd be more inclined to say, well, if someone ordered 1 or 2 bottles of wine with a dinner, that's one thing. But to say I'm going to order a case of wine and some nachos, seems like that's kind of abusing the spirit of the law.
Maybe they're thirsty.
Maybe they
This person, quite frankly, said I don't have to drive to Total Wine. I mean,
I mean, some people drink quite a bit of wine as part of, I guess, their culture as well. Sure. But my concern was really what Commissioner Quinn was talking about. If Flexi is supporting this sort of black market, underground, whatever you want to call it. Well, we certainly need to find out if that's the case, because it doesn't matter then. If we got the law enforcement center doing it, then of course everybody will be doing it.
I can't tell you what other places do, but all I know is that this is a great way for us to expand our business.
I would support this because it seems like the folk who want to do it the right way, I don't think they should be punished because other people are doing it the wrong way. So I certainly would support this.
Ms. Kickleiter, I think you made excellent points and some that I hadn't thought about, and I certainly think we probably need to consider all of it and think about it some more. But I think our original intent was to help those that needed help that were being burdened by COVID-19, and so that was sort of the original intent. I don't know about the package stores. Every time I ride by a package store, the parking lot looks like Walmart. Since this COVID-19 has come about, I think it may be breaking records for package stores. So, and our intent certainly isn't to pour more alcohol out into the community. I mean, you know.
Well, Ms. Kickleiter, and I don't mean to interrupt you, I think we're really talking about 2 segments of this conversation. It's not as much as about the delivery. What I wanted to do was have the commission consider to allow Aaron to put together an ordinance that deals specifically offering this privilege to restaurants that qualified for it. A restaurant's and an alcohol license is one of the few things that the county offers that's an at-will issue. We can revoke a license for misbehavior at any time at will. It's the one thing that the gift empowered by the commission, that you give that, they have to qualify for it, but it's revocable at our will. And I see this as a short-term thing, that a man that we know in our community is an integrity restaurant operator and probably is speaking to the heart of the restaurant business. And I think it's something that we can put together short-term and help them, give them out that opportunity to be responsible for that. I see it, like I said, when we return to normal, then we can put that away. And for individuals that misbehave with that, it's not about code enforcement. It's about the arm of the commission being able to revoke the license of that establishment. That's a different kind of power to help somebody behave. So All I'm asking today is just if you would consent to county attorney to move forward and bring something a little more definitive to this commission, but it was good to have a discussion.
And as I see it, we've got 3 options that we could consider today, restricted to restaurant only. We could open it up for both categories, distilled and then all other, or we could open it to just all other. And then I think look at putting a sunset on whatever we bring forward. So gentlemen, looking for a consensus again, not a vote.
Mr. Chairman, I think if you just put restaurants, it's going to open us up to discussion of why just the restaurants. I think maybe it ought to be everybody. The package stores, if they're not doing it now, they're not going to do it. But this way it takes us out of that loop that, well, y'all didn't let us do it.
Well, the difference is the restaurants are the only businesses that are running under a 50% occupancy inside dining. No other businesses operating in that.
This one does. I've seen others that don't, Cap.
Well, I
But
understand that.
I understand.
But for discussion's purposes,
Yeah, we'll continue.
we're not looking at just one restaurant, or is our desire today to limit this to just restaurants only? Do we have a consensus? Is that what you want to do? I know Commissioner Rafalski is saying open it to both categories.
I just think if you don't, we're going to come under.
And this is something that we could amend or adapt in phases.
Yeah, but the package stores are already able to deliver, right?
Only by county ordinance, from what I understand.
So,
Only if the board lets them deliver can they deliver, and right now they cannot.
oh, okay.
And
But the
what we're
state,
hearing
state
is they're
allows
doing it
that if we
illegally.
choose to.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's right, do the restaurants, and let's have something to look at and discuss in the future here as soon as possible. I personally, my personal opinion would be to see it sunset it some way. Regards to the liquor stores, so we'll have to tackle that down the road, but I think today before us is discussion about delivery from restaurants. So I'm comfortable with having the attorney draw something up and let us look at it, and let's have some further discussion about it.
Sure, and we'll sunset it from 1 year to the date we approve it.
What if the COVID is lifted?
Well, at any
Still-
time, again, in this particular situation, the commission can take that privilege off the table.
Commissioners, you can always extend a sunset or make it permanent if you want to, once you get to that point. One option is to have this as an overlaid license. So have anyone who wants to participate in this process or program come in and they can get an administrative license on top of their existing license and do that for the calendar year. All licenses are good for a calendar year and have it coincide with each other. Then 2022, if you want to renew it, you can renew it.
So I think I'm getting nods that that's the way to progress. So, Mr. Attorney, if you would draw that up for us. That concludes our regular agenda items. We do need to go into executive session for personnel. So at this point, we will not be making any personnel decisions, so there's no need to come back, or do we need to come back into session to adjourn? We do. So we are in recess for executive session.
That we go into executive session
Second.
for personnel matters.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you, and thank you for the direction.
All right.
Yes. Do I have a motion to come out of executive recess? Got a motion? Second. All in favor? Being nothing to vote on at this time, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.